So, hello, Bill.
Hello, Regine.
Welcome to the Transfer of Awakening channel. How are you today?
Well, I'm magnificent, thank you. It is a total pleasure to be here with you and, frankly, to be here with anybody and everybody who happens to be watching, listening, participating, and being an intimate part of this. I'm just thrilled to join our hearts, join our souls, join our whole beings together for an absolutely exquisite time together.
Oh, thank you. Well, I can't wait. I have so many questions, but before I start, I'd like to say that you're the author of several books, right? I
As I
saw them
recall, that's true.
yeah, I saw them in Amazon.
that's,
So I have
that's
a,
right.
I have a very reliable source.
Oh my goodness, you just know everybody, don't you?
So let's see. You've got Soul Vision, a modern mystic look at life through the eyes of the soul. You've
Yes,
got Oz Power, how to click your heels and take total charge of your life. What else
that's
you got?
right.
And you have Oneness, our heritage, our path, our destiny.
My goodness, your psychic abilities are amazing. How you just pulled that out of the air, Regina. You're wonderful. Yeah, that is true. I have all of those. And
Oh,
then
that's
a little more recently, I put together a little book of poetry that's been out for a couple years now too.
oh really? What is it called?
Oh dear, what is it called? The title escapes me at the moment, uh, but it'll come to me probably. So anyway,
Okay.
it's
Well, it says here on Amazon, it says Amazon's Bill Bauman page. Is it Bauman? Am I pronouncing it right?
that's correct. My
Okay.
goodness, this is good. I'm gonna learn a lot from you right here. So you go right ahead.
Okay, so it says Bill Bauman is one of the simplest people you'll ever met. He just is. Yet his core essence calls him daily into selfless, expansive service to a human family he loves deeply. He feels called to be the voice of the purest truth possible. Okay, a truth says more about Bill Bauman. Let's see how long this is. We have to give you justice here. Okay. Um, a truth without beliefs, complexities, or codes of conduct that speaks purely to each person's soul, that carries genuine, unconditional love and respect. In this sacred space of being and allowing, Bill believes that each person is free to discover his or her own truth, love, and empowerment from within. Bill is a unique blend of many perspectives. Through his life, he has lived sequentially and powerfully in the diverse worlds of philosophy, religion, psychology, business, politics, and spirituality. Religiously, he has been a Catholic priest and religious science minister. As a licensed psychologist, he has specialized in deep psychotherapy, so forth. So that's so that's a little bit about you.
This fellow sounds very interesting. I'd really like to meet him. He
Yeah.
sounds fascinating.
So yeah, so do we. So tell us about this fascinating fellow who is, like I was saying earlier, who's been referenced by other spiritual teachers and healers, sort of like a guru's guru.
Yes. Hold on a second. I forgot to turn off my silly cell phone.
Okay.
Um,
You're like a
uh,
teacher's teacher. So yes, tell us about this person.
well, this is a interesting person. I guess if I just off the top of my head, Regine, and everyone would come up with something that I feel would be significant, it's that I was born in what it felt like as a regular human being, with all the flaws, all the deficits, all the sense of separation, all the pain, etc. And so my life has been sort of a specialization in moving from that into, I guess we could call it bigger states of consciousness and awareness, into significantly greater depth, into worlds beyond the three-dimensional that carry a lot of divine grace and blessing. And at this point in my life, really, about all I'm here for in life is to embody everything that is bigger dimensional, divine, light, love, oneness, and the quantum void, nothingness. Embody all that in a way that just sort of lets it all translate. Just lets it all be given out as a gift or as a blessing or as an empowerment or whatever is important for anybody, whatever is important for the human race. So in that sense, if I go back to your description of me that he just is, quote unquote, that's pretty much what I feel like. I just am, and then I'm really blessed that at this point I've left behind those sort of human needs, orientations, etc. And I'm just really one with all life. And all life uses this, whatever I am, this form to just love, honor, respect, bless all life. And then through a few gifts, be a very healing, empowering, and awakening presence. So that's a brief description of me that bypasses all the drama, all the steps I've been through, which have been a number of them now.
Well, so did you have an awakening experience of sorts?
Oh, I've had several awakening experiences
Oh,
of sorts.
several.
Would you like me to pick out one or two, or how, how would you like me to share that?
Yeah, whatever you'd like
Oh,
to, wherever you'd like
oh,
to start.
well, you can tell I'm not always a huge fan of talking about myself because I frankly find other people much more interesting than this self. But just ever so briefly, again, I started out as this pretty damaged human being. When I was 13 and a half, I heard this first inner voice of my life that said, Bill, I want you to be my priest. And after being totally freaked out for a few days, I pursued that path and at 25 became a Catholic priest after spending several years in Europe studying theology. And my first great awakening was about love because I had tried to live in the mind as a way of coping with everything, and I tried to hang out with beliefs. And those somewhere around age 22 or 23, those all fell by the wayside, and out of the chaos of knowing nothing and being totally lost, that sort of existential angst, if you will, came this huge message that said, try me. And that was my heart speaking, and I'd never heard my heart speak. So this inner voice, you can tell, is a tragic thing for me. It sort of commands respect. So love just awakened in me, and that was one of those spontaneous awakenings. It was, in the context of sort of, sitting at the bottom of the utterly miserable barrel, and feeling like there was nothing left in life. And so out of nothing came love. So I really dedicated myself to love. I felt like I became love, if you will, in a strong way. I just the compellingness of not just the message, but of my heart's requirement that I be it, not just listen to it, not just follow its wisdom, but that I be love was remarkable. So I did that, and after a little bit of time as a Catholic priest, left that. Found this amazing, amazing woman to whom I am still married many, many years later, 46 years later.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Love, thank you, love and adore, and she tolerates me marvelously. No, she loves me. What did I say? And, but she was a nun, I was a priest, and so it was one of those dramatic stories where we eloped together, if you will.
Oh,
So from
wow.
there, yeah, it's an adorable story. Yeah, I proposed to her 3 weeks after I met her. I just, one of those, I don't know, Camelot kinds of things. So it was, it was, and it continues to be, frankly, the biggest blessing of my life. She's everything exquisite.
So what was
Then,
it,
go
what was it
ahead.
like to be married after being a priest for that long? How long were you a priest for?
Oh, I was a priest for a totality of a year and a half.
Oh.
though it did seem like about 20 years in length, I must admit. No, I loved, the part I loved about being a priest was service. Just being able to touch people's hearts, to open people's hearts, to serve people's hearts. It was just exquisite. And so I really wasn't looking for intimate, personal, sexual love at that point, but life tends to have its own plan, and so it was right there. Um, and then I became a psychologist, got my doctorate in psychology, and specialized in really depth psychology. So I kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And so over some years, I totally became my subconscious mind. Then beyond that, I became my unconscious mind. So note my emphasis on becoming, not just connecting to, not just being one with, but becoming. And so I learned a lot about consciousness in those psychological years, just because there was the conscious mind, subconscious, unconscious mind, and I lived very powerfully in all of those. Then spirituality found me. It was a terrible trick. Just when I was bebopping along, minding my own business, having a wonderful time. Just everything spiritual in me opened up, and that was its own awakening. I really opened up to light, and so light just called me, and you know the next verb. I became light over some time, if you will.
Okay, so are you distinguishing between spirituality and religion? Because you were a Catholic priest before and you had an awakening
Yes.
then. So what's the difference between then when you were a Catholic priest and then the spirituality that you experienced later?
Well, my sense of most religions, and one should never generalize, as I just did, but I guess I just did. No, my sense of most religions is that they're very much about spirituality, but it's so often coded in beliefs, it's coded in rituals, it's coded in a certain style of consciousness that really engages the mind a lot. And I found for me that it was very, very, very important to disengage from the trappings, if you will, to take the meat off the bones. And so to me, spirituality is the bones. Spirituality is the essence of the divine being that we are. It's the centerpiece of creation that holds divinity, holds light, holds love, holds all the precious ingredients in us that just want experience. They want to be felt. They want to be not just acknowledged, but they want to be fully, fully, fully alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, if I can become one with light and let light become fully alive in me, then creation is fulfilled. And I find, just because I've been such a helper for so long, that most of us in religion, but also many, many people in spirituality, overuse the mind. And it's all about beliefs, and it's about principles, and it's about values. And it's not that I'm negating the value of principles, beliefs, values, etc., but I find that they're most often helpful to a point, and then they stop being helpful. And then something has to take their place. And what needs to take their place, I think, is, I could call it the heart, I could call it the soul, I could call it the spirit, I could call it the divine essence of, or nature of us. It's important, I think, to let go into the miracle, the magic, the mystery, the wonder of it all, and sort of let go of my reliance on my mind, so that I can just let the whole rest of my experience take over. And that to me is I guess probably a lot of what I represent. So in that regard, what's adorable is if somebody ever says, "What do you teach?" I am at a total loss, simply because I'm a lousy teacher. I'm a total flop or failure as somebody who likes to put things into concepts, because I think that, again, we can put it into a concept, and then that concept supports us to a degree, and therefore it has value. But at some point, I need to let go of whatever the concept is, no matter how pure, exquisite, enlightened the concept is. I need to let go of it. So instead of me following and pursuing and serving the concept lets go and opens the door for a bigger, fuller experience, a bigger, fuller state, if you will.
So you're more about the experience.
I'm a lot more about the experience. So when in fact, I'm probably totally about the experience.
Right.
Let's be clear. Again, and everyone's got their style. I think the one old technique I have for life is I just take whatever I feel is the truth here in me, whatever way nature, the divine creation has put me together, and then I just become that and I flow with that. And I don't really consider anything else, and it just happens to be the way I'm put together. And I know other people are put together where pursuing concepts, etc., is their calling, and I totally support that in every way. But for me, I think you mentioned earlier before we started here that I tend to know a lot of leaders, spiritual leaders, and leaders in other arenas, and oftentimes they seek me out. I think they seek me out because they get that something else is here in addition to what they already know, if you will. And so I notice a lot of the times I spend with anyone, I just simply let myself sort of fall into or become one with who they are, and then we just find their truth, and then we just let their truth speak its own language, if you will. And that truth at that pure level, doesn't usually speak the language of theory, doesn't usually speak the language of belief. It speaks the kind of a pure, essential, radical meaning roots. Like what are our roots? What's the deepest core truth and wisdom and knowing of who we are? That to me is what human life is like so about. Is that we come here in order to take everything we are and spend a lot of our lives just discovering it. We come in and it's like buried treasure. And so we get born, and then we do all the little things about growing up. But at some point we discover that there's a treasure in there. And then we spend our lives opening the lid on the treasure box. This is great. I think this is the first time I've ever said this. This is just for you, just for you. And then we notice, oh, there's this. And we discover bit by bit that, by golly, everything in the universe, everything in the multiverse, everything in creation, everything in the bigger dimensional field, everything is in this treasure box, and it all lives right here in a unique design. And so in that sense, when I sit with anybody or stand with anybody or float with anybody, I recognize deeply that person. So if I'm talking to you, Regine, or you who are looking at this, listening here, being here with us, if I'm talking with you, I really get you are a total one of a kind treasure, just a gem. And as the theory says, you are this amazing embodiment of the divine, and I'm just gifted at this point in my life to be able to recognize that and live that and see that. And I feel like maybe one of my jobs is to just kind of help us all wake up in whatever stages to, wow, I'm the divine, or I'm all life, or I am light, or I am whatever it may be. And that to me is the exquisite nature of being a human being, is that we get to discover it experientially.
Yes. Well, you certainly have this air about you.
I'm airy.
That that it's I was telling you about the Catholic priest that I knew,
Yes.
and so one day I was having a really bad day, and he simply, I was speaking to him, but what he did was he didn't offer any advice or anything like that. He just simply came and sat next to me. He just simply sat with me. So
Mm-hmm.
when you said, just sitting with someone or being with someone, it just really reminded me of that, because to me, that at that moment, that was like the most powerful and loving and healing thing that he could have done.
That
Just
is
to
so
just to
sweet.
yeah, just
Go
to simply sit with me and just be there with me without any judgments, without any words or anything like that.
Mm,
So
mm.
I have the sense that you offer that as well.
It's my sense as well too,
So is that
and
part of
it's
the Catholic priest training?
well, it
Is that
was
like
not
Catholic priest
exactly a
101, how
part
to
of.
sit with people?
No, I don't think we ever had a class or a sentence about that, as a matter of fact. No, of course, it's been a lot of years since I left the Catholic Church behind, and just sort of moved beyond. But as you also mentioned before we started talking to everyone else here, that I have that sort of priestly air about myself,
Yeah.
which I notice is very true. In the Catholic Church, they do have this saying, "Once a priest, always a priest." And so when I left being a priest, left the Catholic Church, and just went on to sort of follow my heart, follow my soul, follow my own truth, I noticed that the part that stayed when I shed everything else, is the priest. And while I don't feel like I'm at all a Catholic priest at this point, I feel like there's a bigger priesthood that I was privileged through the Catholic Church to get initiated into, if you will, and then initiated in these other awakenings into other forms of that. But there's something to me very, very sacred about priesthood, and my sense is, or ministerhood, or rabbihood, whatever word we want to put to that. And my real feel about that is that it's all about service. It's all about the exquisite joy of just being able to be in pure service to whomever, to whatever, to the planet, to life, to an individual person, to whatever it may be. There's something, just like that priest that you talked about sitting with you, there's something sacred just in the bringing two hearts together, before we even open our mouth or before it takes a form. And that to me is what the priesthood that lives here now is all about. Just being able to love, respect, honor each person. Because I feel like if I personify God, quote unquote, um, I feel like that's what God does. God just lives in the deepest knowing and treasuring of what each creation, not just human creation, but plants and the sky and the atmosphere and animals and the little ants crawling on the ground. Just this deepest honor and respect for the utter beauty of that. And and that's what the personal joy for me in life is that I feel like I'm just allowed to see that everywhere, to perceive it, to interpret it, to get it, to know it. And even when my conversation with someone is not about how beautiful they are, when it's maybe all about how awful their life is and how beat up and knocked out and terrible they are, everything is, even when that's the verbal part, that doesn't take in any way away from just my experiencing just the perfection, the utter perfection of that person, and ironically of that moment, even though that moment humanly seems so terrible at that particular time.
So how would you help someone, without, of course, getting personal or anything, but
Of course not.
but how would you, yeah, how would you offer your guidance and through all your experiences and your different perspectives to help them through the challenges in life? I mean, what would you suggest or prescribe for them?
Well, this is where I said I'm the world's most terrible teacher. What I do, it's a oneness thing. Is I sit with them, we talk, or whatever it is, and and I just watch myself just become very totally one with who the person is, so that I start experimenting experiencing the person not primarily through the words, but through their insides. I start feeling sort of what their body's about. I start becoming aware of what their subconscious self is saying to me, or pictures it's giving me. I start becoming really one with their soul's truth. And so I find I really, as much as I can get away with it, will never say anything to anyone that's theory. Like this would, this seems like it would be a good thing to say to the person. I just try to avoid that as much as I can, and just sort of listen and feel inside the person himself, herself, for what's this person's truth? What is this person's soul's wisdom right now? What if there's an inner guidance that's happening? Just letting that fill me, if you will. Let it fill my left brain, my right brain, my heart, my soul. Let it fill my body, my energy field. And so I just, with all of that, something comes, and I trust it, and I say it to the person. In a sense, I apologize for not being more specific than that, but I think just like this priest mostly sat with you, and I think he probably did his version of what I'm just describing, and my sense is you at that point just felt really bonded with him. And then this is the thing, then, to use a word, grace just takes over. It's like we just open our hearts and let or allow, and grace takes over, the mystery takes over, divine intervention takes over. But it takes over in any of a number of ways. And that to me is the sacredness of relationship, it's the sacredness of helping, healing, nurturing. It's the sacredness of human living, which is really, I think it's all about trust. It's just all about sort of letting go of anything that I'm attached to, and just trusting what is. And I know those words sound so easy, and maybe cheesy, but when we do that, go ahead.
Well, what do you think is the cause of the suffering? The lack of trust and the attachment? What do you think is the primary cause of human suffering?
Well, I should get my Buddha dictionary out for the answer to that. Um, here's my sense. My sense is that somewhere at the unconscious level of our human awareness, and parentheses, at the unconscious level, we are one. That's where individuality kind of gives way to oneness. So that's where we are the human family. So at the conscious, if you don't mind, at the conscious level, we're very much into separateness, individuality. I'm me, you're Regine, and you're whoever you are there. And so we're very different. So it's about individuality, but when we move, then we move down to the subconscious mind. It's very much about allness. It's like, I am everything. And then at the unconscious, it's about my oneness with the human race. So at the unconscious level, I feel like we have all made an agreement that we are going to believe and behave and feel as though we're separate, cut off, and alone. And experience the aloneness of that, and the scream of that aloneness. So that through that ritual and through all the ways that we're alone, and then I could use all sorts of other words for alone, fearful, angry about it, frustrated, lost, and I could go on and on. And then probably the most bottom line word, shameful. It's like somehow at the pit of almost every human being I've talked to, with a few exceptions, there is this, if we get way, 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 way down at the bottom of the barrel, or maybe under the bottom of the barrel, there's this shared human shame that we have. And so back to where does that come from, to your question, I feel like it comes from, ironically, this is unfortunately not a great conspiracy theory. I apologize. But I feel like it comes from this space where we basically, humanly as a family, agreed, and other life forms haven't done it, we've agreed, let's play the the game of there's something wrong with us. Let's just play that game. And each person will play it differently, uniquely. For some people it's about self-hatred, for others it's about hating others, and on and on. So that we can somehow open up to love and let ourselves love each other in a way that will kind of wake us up. Just wake us up. And that's what I love about this transferring of awakening label or title that you have, which is, to me, it's all about transferring awakening. It's all about waking us up through love and through the purity of it all. If I could tell a little story.
Sure.
This is part of my, I said I became one with light when over a number of years after spirituality compelled me to itself. And so I had this, at the end of several years, I had this amazing experience in which I just sort of fell to the floor, became semi-paralyzed, and out of nothing, and I witnessed my human self just being lifted out. And all of a sudden there was nobody home. Not even the chickens were home. Nobody home. And I don't know how long I was in that state, but after a little bit of time, I noticed something else came in. And it was light, but I think a word that is intimately connected to light is oneness. It was the spirit of oneness. And so all of a sudden, that from the unconscious realm, I was one with everything. And it was an amazing, wonderful experience for a few days until I realized that, whoops, I'm being invited to become totally one with human suffering, the primal scream of the pain that we all share, and several other equally wonderful kinds of experiences. So I spent roughly 9 years, while I was externally doing all sorts of things, in this state of immense suffering. And I discovered bit by bit that it was a suffering that would not let me heal it, because I've been allowed to have some healing gifts, that would not allow me to do anything except love it unconditionally. And so I did that, and it gripped, and it screamed. It did. My body just felt racked with this sort of psychic pain of existence. and I apologize for being so dramatic here. But
I'm sorry, Bill. I didn't get your point there. A little more emphasis there.
I was a little vague about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll look farther at it, Regine. So this went on for 9 years. I knew it would go on for a long time. I had no idea how long. And at the end of 9 years, to fast forward to the end, a remarkable thing happened. One, the pain went away, has not been back since, and that's been a lot of years now. And two, that voice, that terrible voice, that voice, sort of the divine voice from inside, said two things. One, you are now a master of the unconscious. And I didn't really know what that meant at the time, but but to translate it a little bit, it meant instead of coming to our shared humanness and trying to fix us, trying to make pain go away, trying to remedy it, in other words, trying to do. Yeah, Lao Tzu would love me because it's all about being instead of doing. So instead of coming here and using all your tricks to make our pain go away, you just loved us unconditionally. You just sat with us in oneness, and you just let us scream, and just let us scream and let us scream. And thank you, we're done screaming. And from that minute on, while I'm still totally connected to human pain, I mean, I'm deep, I'm aware of it, I feel it, I experience it every day, but it does its screaming not at the level of energy, which is feelable, but at the level of light, which is one that any of us can embrace.
Okay,
So
so you feel pain, but you don't have the suffering attached to it.
that's a great distinction. A great distinction, yeah. And I'm able to feel the pain in a way that lets me be in love with it. So that even if I feel called with a particular person to be a healer, excuse me, um, and we do whatever is important from a healing perspective, I never feel at odds with the pain. I never feel judgmental about the pain. I'm totally grateful for what this pain is and what it's doing and the role it's playing, and I love it and I embrace it. And even though the person may be having a terrible time embracing that pain, it's like it may be impossible. It's easy for me, and so where two or more are gathered, when I can just be totally at peace with pain and suffering, and just embrace it no matter what's going on and no matter what the role I'm playing is. Again, it just allows that kind of magic, if you
So then, how would you deal with unpleasant people or unpleasant situations? Like, let's say you're driving down a freeway and somebody cuts you off,
will.
or your
I.
wife is having a bad day, your kids are all yelling at you,
Well, I hate to sound Pollyanna-ish, but yeah, those things don't really happen to me anymore. And I've certainly had decades of that kind of experience. I totally get it.
Do you just like leave the room when something like that happens? Is that what
No,
you mean?
actually, I don't even need to leave the room. What I do is I just invite myself to show up to what is, and then one of the things I know when I'm with what is that there's a perfect reason why this is present in my life at this moment. And then I just open up to what is that reason, or what's the truth of this moment, is another way of saying it. And then it speaks to me from the inside, and it says, this is here for X. One, it maybe it's just here so you can be with this person. And I have a lot of people that I just bump into on a regular basis, who are not pleasant personalities, who are in fact who from a judgmental perspective, are really terrible people, if you will. And yet I notice I stay connected to their heart, so I just feel them. I just feel them, and it's sort of like, what's the old saying that you see beyond the surface, beyond what's apparent, and see into the deeper truth of the person. So I'm there. So even if even if somebody's yelling at me, even if it's an awful day for everybody, I guess to say it another way, I'm in the eye of that storm, and I'm listening to the heart of that person. And I know that's it's a terrible thing to say in a sense, because somebody could say, well, Bill, is sort of beyond, he's left the human race. It's, but I've found for me that the more I leave the human race, the more I am in the human race in a much more powerful way, much more loving way, much more engaged way, and it seems counterintuitive, because up front, I remember thinking every time I was invited to make a quantum leap forward in my growth, I would go through this guilt thing of, well, wait a minute, how can I leave my brothers and sisters behind? And yet I found every time I did one of those leaps, I came back and I was, maybe I didn't experience life like they did anymore, but I could be so much more engaged in it. I could be so much more powerfully one with them in it. I could be, frankly, the way it's happened, more healing, more empowering, more awakening, more whatever is important.
Well, is that true too, even with like close relatives? Because you ever heard the
Oh,
saying that I thought I was enlightened until I went home for Christmas?
yes, exactly. And trust me, with the family I was raised in, that saying made a lot of sense. So I experienced all of that.
Because
Yeah,
they
it
know how
really.
to they know how to push your buttons. They know exactly what to do.
They've had practice, everybody's got to be good at something. But again, even in that situation, it would for me after a while. Okay, it became, oh well, okay, what's this pushing buttons about? Oh, it's this invitation for me to heal. What all that's about. So and to do that within myself. So, so in that sense, yeah, even with those kind of circumstances, I think the point I want to make, which goes to the sort of the subtle implications at the energy level of our this part of our conversation, Regine, is this: that uh, if we can give ourselves permission to really take that leap into, and now each person would substitute a different word, into our divinity, into our perfection, into whatever way we know the deepest truth of us is calling us. That totally give ourselves permission to just absolutely go for what our truth is. Go for who we really feel like we are. Like just for me, for example, just because it's all about me, right? Just for
Well,
me.
today it
Apparently it is, yes. So if I make it about me, it's like, and I ask myself the question, well, Bill, who are you really? What is the deepest truth of you? And for me, and for the answer for everybody else may be different, but for me, the truth is, oh, I'm basically divine. And so the calling for me is, so what's the truth? Then the second question, what's the calling? The calling for me is, be that. Just be that. And yes, go through whatever processes, steps, rituals you need to in order to be that, and do that with reckless abandon, random acts of being self. Do that with reckless abandon, but don't settle for less. Don't settle for less. Now, my path has involved a lot of sufferings. The path to this, it meant I had to face, to use some language, face my demons, face the dark side of life and my own, face terrible, I'll say, suffering, just because I think part of that, back to that, the game we're playing at the unconscious level, the agreement we made, I think part of our agreement was we're going to set it up so that number one, we really believe we're bad, we're in trouble, something wrong with us, and number two, we're going to make it hard for ourselves to get free. But it's part of the game. It's just the way we set it up. So, for example, in the Garden of Eden, there are lots of trees. We pick the fruit of that tree of duality, and this game I'm talking about. But there are lots of other trees out there with lots of other fruit, and and to get to those, we set it up so that it would be hard. But as we all know, there's this what do you call it, critical mass deal, where let's just say here I am awake, and all these people that you're interviewing and sharing with the rest of us are awake, each of us in our own way. And more people are awakening. One of my favorite books was my buddy Arjuna Ardal, The Translucent Revolution, which came out maybe 5 years ago or something like that, which is a book of research about all these people who are just waking up, just spontaneously awakening. And and one of the things that's happening with all of that is it's becoming easier and easier to wake up. With the critical mass, in other words, we're reaching that point where there are enough of us where, and I notice it in my work with people, where I don't have to work as hard to help somebody wake up. It just is becoming more and more a part of us. And so my intention in this hour together is that for everybody who's here, including you and me, that we swim in or float in or rest in just the exquisite light, the exquisite grace of just that blessing that's here for all of us to wake us up so that we can go about playing in the Garden of Eden, which is kind of really what it's all about.
Yeah, Cynthia Lane said that it's not just about healing, which is good too, but also remembering our divine, joyful nature.
Yeah, Cynthia's
That
my, I adore her.
yeah, She
one of
adores you too. She said you want one of her lifelong, eternal friends.
yeah, that works. That's exactly true. Yes.
Yeah, so joyful divine nature. Remembering that.
Yes. Yes.
Remembering
Yes.
that.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, so do you think spirituality can help people into getting that to awaken? What would you say? If somebody said, "Okay, I'd like to, be better."
Well, if what I would do is I would just to back up a step. I would kind of be with them, and I would get my own sense of what is their nature, and in that, if their nature is very spiritual,
Mm,
then that would be the pathway. If their nature is much more, for example, psychological, that would be the pathway. And for some people, they're very much in the mind. So if their nature is more philosophical, if you will, around the mental constructs, that would be their path. So I try to get really clear about that. And of course, for me, at this point, 90-some% of the people who find me very much have the spiritual as the pathway. But even there's so many slices of the pie of spirituality. For some spiritual people, um, their light is very much what calls them, and so it's all about being blessed by their light. For other people, it's very much their energy, their chakras, and their whole etheric energy. They're feelers, they're experiencers, they're intuitors, if you will. And so that's a pathway. For some people, just a state of being or soulfulness is really used. Like, oh, I just sit in my soul where truth lives, love is, and I just in that state of being, that's my path. And I can go on and on. I have a number of people who've come to me in recent years where their path is more the quantum. It's the quantum void, if you will. And these are people who just are nowhere. Life doesn't hold anything. So I've been privileged to help them, and I feel like I'm saying this because there are some people watching and being a part of this who are there. I really help them learn how to be nothing, how to be nowhere, how to be in the middle of nothing, and be so subsumed into that that you almost don't even have a self-concept or a self. And then how to be with it in a way that lets the creative genius that's implied in emptiness and nothingness come forth. So it's another path that is not there for most people, but for more and more people, that's a path. So there are lots of paths. So being spiritual, what I love about being spiritual, I think, is that it encompasses so much. Because spirituality to me is about allness, A-L-L. Just it's like, wow, I'm a part of everything. You know, like modern science says, I'm a part of every dimension, and I live in multiple worlds, and I'm a vast being of light whose expansive nature is just endless, and so that's like just the spirituality opens so many doors, and yet I guess I would say this to anybody who's watching, but like we all do in any arena. We I want to lose weight, so I open to the arena of nutrition. And then I find, oh my gosh, there are many paths in nutrition. The same thing with spirituality. I open up to spirituality, and I know a lot of people will sort of jump in and sort of follow this teacher or that teacher, and then it doesn't work out well for whatever reason. But I think maybe it doesn't work out well because it's time for them to let go of that and find what is their unique path in and through spirituality. And that to me is the important thing.
So it's
To
not a one size fits all prescription.
yes, exactly.
So what do you think of meditation?
I think for many people, meditation is an exquisite, powerful, dynamic, rich pathway to opening to, living in, and becoming this vast being that we are, and a part of the vast infinity that we are. And note, I didn't just say connecting to it, feeling a little more like it's here, but ultimately becoming it. And then again, there are many, many styles of meditation, and it would be wonderful for each person to discover what is the style that works best for her or him. And then there are a number of people who find me, and I just kind of the way I'm with them internally, I see and they say, meditation just doesn't do it for me. So, so I think for most spiritual people, meditation is just wondrous. And for some, it's like, one person's meat is another person's poison. So you don't say that term to vegetarians, though. That's not a good thing.
Well, speaking of that, speaking of vegetarianism, do you think, in terms of spirituality, and all that, do you think it's better to be a vegetarian or not? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts. I happen to be vegetarian quite strongly, but I am because my body wants me to be vegetarian. So unlike some people, I don't see any innate value in vegetarianism. In other words, I don't feel, for example, to borrow a particular belief, I don't feel like it being vegetarian more enhances one's spiritual growth than another approach to eating. But I feel like again, there's a truth in each of us, and there's a truth in the body of each of us, as well as the truth in the soul, in the psyche, in the heart, etc. of each of us. And the important thing is to just get in touch with what is the truth of this body. So the truth of my body happens to be um, uh, meat doesn't do much for me. I probably get one-fourth the nutrient or protein value out of meat that most meat eaters do. And so my body tells me very clearly what it wants, and when I'm aligned with that, it works marvelously.
So you're a big believer in self-referral, like just listening to yourself and your inner wisdom, and and following accordingly.
Yes, yes, exactly. And sometimes that wisdom or truth from a self referral point of view says, oh, follow this teacher, or it says, oh, hang out in this teaching for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
other times it says, let's be self reflective, let's be self generative, let's be self contained, have the sort of the holy of holies in the middle of the self. And again, it's each one of us has our own path, our own style. But it is important, I think, for us to be self-referring enough so that we know what that is. That's
Yeah,
the
that was my next question. Because do you think we're always right?
uh, no. I
What if
think the
there's a lot of
learning.
noise going on in there? How do you?
Oh, there is. No, and this is one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of sort of knowing what we know in the mind, but being as much engaged outside of the mind as in the mind, because the mind collects, or in our mind we collect programs, beliefs, stories, interpretations. Um, Orientations. And the truth, I think, is deep within us. So for us to learn our own truth, for most of us, it takes a trial and error approach. It's like, okay, I'm going to try to get in touch with, okay, what's my wisdom? What's my truth? What's my intuition? Oh, seems to be this. Okay, let me try that out. And maybe it'll work, and I'll say, all right, oh, that's okay. So now I know where to listen a little more strongly, how to connect, how to be me. And then, oh, didn't work out really well. Maybe I need to refine that. So it's a step by step method for most of us, and for most of us, I would just beg us to have a little patience with ourselves as we keep learning.
So, earlier on, you mentioned trust.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of dealing with people and relationships, and so how would you describe trust, and why do you think it's so important?
Well, you first of all, you just asked terribly wonderful questions. I'm, I'm
I have a
enough to knock your headset off.
exactly.
Yeah. Um,
I have a script, but it should,
oh, Oh, okay. I thought you were right there. No, to me, trust is one of those great words. To me, trust is a human word.
Mhm.
So what do we need to do as a human being? Oh, I need to let go, which is another human word. Let go, surrender, and I need to trust. And then on the other side of trust, I don't need to do much more humanly. But the word trust, I can be tricky, and that's why I emphasize the human part of it. So we can, as human beings, we're great. We can take anything and we can twist it and turn it, and we can use it this way and we can use it that way. So trust in and of itself, I think, is marvelous. To trust life, trust nature, trust the divine, trust our heart, trust our soul, etc. It's marvelous. And yet, we can trust in a way that in letting go of our attachment, letting go of our desires, our wants, our wills, letting go of what I want, letting go of the I, we can do that naively and what we would usually say, give the power away to someone else and set ourselves up for a lot of pain, sometimes a lot of damage, and it's a very difficult kind of thing. So again, it's not the one size fits all in terms of, oh, just trust. So what I try to do when I'm with anyone is just get my own feel of what's the quality of this trust that this person is doing. Trust for almost all of us is super important. And yet again, as I implied in the one example, we can do that in ways that don't serve us really well. So I try to get my own feel of it and then invite the person to trust in a way that the purest truth is inviting them to. So it's like, again, always going deep within, deep within, deep within, and back to the word trust, and more trusting, oh, this is where truth lives. For some people, it lives in the heart. For some people, it lives in the gut. For some people, it sort of lives in their auric space of light, if you will. Wherever, or for some people, it doesn't have a location. So, but to demand of ourselves, if we're on a path of growth, to demand of ourselves that I find the truth that's here. For some reason, I know a lot of spiritual people, and I've known a lot over the years, who uh, who just have done trust in a way where they don't. How do I want to say? They don't have a kind of a discernment left in here, and enough of a self. Even in selflessness, there's a self with a capital S that knows. And so I see a lot of people who kind of skirt around that knowing, and they don't know, and so they're always dependent on the teacher, or they're always dependent on the teaching, or whatever it may be, and they can lose a lot that
And also, you don't have to be a martyr, right? Is that part of what you're saying?
way. Exactly, and hopefully one isn't. Yeah, it's certainly a
In
path.
the Catholic teaching, martyrdom is highly revered.
It gets a lot of points. That's right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and even
Uh,
as women too, we tend to have this kind of attitude that we have to keep giving of
yeah.
ourselves, even when that inner knowing says, "Oh, wait a minute, this doesn't feel good. I shouldn't," but
Yeah.
we're kind of just built that way. So how can we, get past that? You know,
Well,
when
no, the point is so well taken, Regine. It's and to me, without at all implying any kind of sexism here, it is often very difficult for women more than men, simply because men are acculturated to ground in themselves, and women are more acculturated to be givers, if you will, and maybe for other reasons as well. So I think especially for women, and I just mean this from the core of my being, it's even though it's harder, it's more important, or it's especially important to really keep calling oneself to one's truth. And I just have known a lot of women who keep doing that and calling themselves to the truth, and then they keep going back to these old patterns, which are sort of selflessly giving oneself away in a way that sets oneself up for hurt or pain or frustration or whatever. And so just to keep coming back to the question, what's the truth? What's the truth? I noticed in our whole conversation that seems to be the theme that's emerged today. Maybe that's the
What's the
theme that most
truth?
of us
Yes.
here.
What is the truth? So
Yeah.
what is truth?
What
What
is
is
truth?
truth? Yes.
Well,
So
to
I'm gonna start a series of like metaphysical questions
oh, all right.
because I have to meet my quota here.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We have to keep you good here. So
Yes, exactly. So,
well,
and we're also nearing the end of our interview, unfortunately. But I'd like
good.
to get these in, and I think you're a wonderful person to kind of set the record straight, you know. So
Set the record straight.
set the
Perfect.
record. So yeah, what do you think is truth?
Well, first of all, to sound a little heretical, I don't think there is such a thing as truth. I think it's a human construct, sort of like other words we have, like hope. So there's truth. So there's something we hold out here as something to aim for. And again, while there's some value to that, for most people, it's what was that song from the I think 1970s called "Is That All There Is," which is I tried this approach, I got to the top, oh, and then I found is that all there is? So I went the next step. Is that all there is? And I think we get to truth only to watch the whole concept of truth dissolve. So now I'm not trying to talk anyone out of pursuing a truth, even after I kept saying to go to the question of what's the truth.
Yeah.
To the truth is what in any moment in the experiential self that I am surfaces as what I'm invited to show up to. That's what I would call the truth. As opposed to, oh, there's this truth out here and that truth out there to pursue. It's more like, okay, here I am, I'm Bill. All I've got is this moment, and all I've got is call it the self or the experience or the space that is me, and whatever consciousness is there just shows up to, oh, what surfaces? What surfaces that calls me? I could put the label truth to that, but the truth of the moment. Because by golly, 2 minutes from now, it could fall off the wagon and it could be gone, and another truth will emerge. And again, that goes back to how important it seems to me to be to trust ourselves, to use your word, to be self-referring, to come back here and dare. And this to me is what spirituality is about, to at some point or points just dare to let go of I don't know, the handrails out there. Let go of the beliefs, etc., and and fall into this truth, this moment, this experience, this being that I am, and watch everything that is everywhere out there be in here. And I think that's ultimately what spirituality is to discover and then live in the middle of, wow, everything that I thought was out there is in here. It lives in my body, it lives in my psyche, it lives in my energy, it lives in my emotion, it lives in my spirit, my heart, my toenail. It just, everything that I am pursuing is all right here. And so if there's maybe a bigger divine intention that you and I just sort of showed up to in this whole time together, it really is the question maybe of for all of us was, oh, is it my time to take a leap into the infinity that lives in the middle of my finiteness, the light that lives in the middle of my dark, the divine that lives in the middle of my human, the love that lives in the middle of my depths, and on and on and on. The earth that lives in the middle of my body, and just find, just by spending time with them, just find the divinity, the light, to find the everythingness that's there right here. And in that sense, we get into the holographic approach, the hologram, that is that in each of us the all is contained, And for that, wow, to me there's no greater experience of being human than to experience everything that is beyond human in the middle of our humanness. And I came up a few years back with a term called the ultimate human, which I've got a whole section on in my website. And the ultimate human to me is someone who is very spiritually and mystically alive, very energetically alive, very primally or earthily alive, and very alive in all the realms of consciousness. And when we just let go into that, they all start coming alive within this self, so that you are the entire universe. You are all of creation, and we look at it out there as though we're separate from it. And that's the human experiment. Is let's pretend we're separate and look at it out there and try to pursue, when in truth it's all right here. The beauty, I think, of being created a human being is that we brought everything with us, and it's all in that treasure chest that we just keep opening to and opening to. And that's the mystical wonder of being human. And that's what, to me, what makes human be so practical, is that that we've got the everything that is here to have a wonderful time playing in this funny land we call the Garden of Eden.
Wow, that was wonderful. I don't have any more questions after that.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Well, okay, maybe just one more. I'm
Oh,
just gonna throw this one in. So how do you
sure.
stay happily married for 40 plus years?
Well, one, I live with a very tolerant woman. No, that's true, but that's not the real answer to the question. Um, that's a great question. Just as an introductory paragraph, Donna and I, when we married like everybody else did. You know, I had my needs, she had her needs. I had my background that I dragged into the marriage, and vice versa. And so we've walked through lots and lots and lots of phases of that. And I feel like the biggest the biggest step maybe we took in many sub-steps is we decided that instead of working on the relationship to create a healthy relationship, each of us was going to work on ourselves. So Bill work on me, Donna works on her. She takes total responsibility for everything that she's about. I take total responsibility for everything that I'm about. So, for example, if there had been something that about her that was bothering me, our agreement is I have no right to ask her to change. I have no right to invite her to be anything other than she is, even in what irritates me. So if something irritates me, then it's my something. And so I do whatever that is here. And nicely, she and I have done that enough that, and I know this is going to sound so terribly strange, there's nothing about her that irritates me, and I'm assuming nothing about me that irritates her, strange as that may be for even me to digest. And so what we do, we notice it. We just live in a state of utter in-loveness with each other. And there's such honoring, such respect, such genuine giving, just simply because, I'll just say it this way, for me, I'm privileged to be married to a goddess.
Oh,
And
beautiful.
yeah, and to me, everything that she is that. And so the blessing for me every day of my life is I wake up with a goddess, I go to bed with a goddess, when we're together, I spend the day with this goddess, and I have the privilege of loving, and I'm looking for another word, celebrating the goddessness of life through the embodiment of that is right here. To me, she is pure love, and And I just think we've moved way beyond what all the mental judgment thing is.
I
Just
see.
just cause.
So you didn't think that she was a
That.
goddess in the beginning? Did you have to grow
Yeah,
into that?
off and on, off and on, depending.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
depending
Okay.
on what ways I got in the way of that. That was exactly
Ah,
what it is.
so is it about choosing the right partner, do you think?
Oh my goodness. Well, I think rather than even saying a yes or no to that, I think each of us in relation to partnership, in relation to intimacy, in relation to life partnership, bondedness, each of us has a unique approach to that, a unique way to that. And again, I've met so many people who are trying to make it happen one way, and that may or may not be the way, if you will. So in one sense, yes, it's a matter of choosing the right partner. For Donna and me, frankly, I don't think we chose each other at all. I think at a conscious human level, I think it was chosen for us. This is one of those, what do you call it, marriage made in heaven kind of thing. And yet it doesn't happen that way for everybody. I think for some people it is a matter of choice. There could be a number of partners. But again, I think it's really important when it comes to partnership to try to get deeply in touch with, at a soul level, what is partnership for me, and what is the, back to the truth word, what is the truth of how I'm being called to partnership. And notice what I'm doing, the truth of how I'm being called to partnership. I'm not putting it up into a mind-centered, all right, it's important for me to create the right partner, if you will. Now, sometimes, for some people, absolutely that. But for a lot of people on a spiritual path, it oftentimes does not happen that way. It's a matter, again, of getting in touch with what is my path to partnership, what is partnership for me, and then trusting that, going with that, and letting it happen, if you
So if we keep attracting the same kind of partner over and over again,
will. Mhm.
so is that what you mean by, seeing maybe what's inside you, or me that might be attracting that?
Exactly that. Yeah, if we do that, I would say chances are we subconsciously set that scenario up so as to invite ourselves to change something inside us, if you will. And and that's not always easy, but just that clarity, it's like, oh, okay, what's going on in here? And oftentimes, in fact, most of the time, it's a hidden something. It's like we really don't know what we're doing, or we don't know what it is in us that sets us up for that kind of pain.
Okay, so if we don't know and we don't sometimes have the courage, and if we do know, we don't always have the courage to change, you know, or the
It,
ability. So then what do we do?
well,
We call Bill
that's
Bauman. That's what we do.
well, I feel actually, Regine, that's where we have to start asking ourselves the questions: how committed am I to my growth? How committed am I to being free? How committed am I to doing whatever it's necessary to do in order to do that? There's often been that saying that to be really spiritual takes an enormous amount of courage,
Yeah.
and I think that is absolutely true. And there's a terrible term like separating the men from the boys, which I've never cared for so much, but the baby in that bathwater of that term, I think, is, wow, am I willing to really commit to? Am I really willing to really show up to, oh, what I need to do in order to be free? And some people are willing to do that, and some people aren't. Some people get to the point where they say, ooh, too hard, too hard. I feel like one of the gifts in my life personally is that no matter what the pain, something in me kept pushing me to say yes. And I don't think it was always just little old Bill Bauman. It was some deep spiritual drive in me that just kept saying, Actually, it was not it was a tough love thing. It kept saying, I don't care how much it hurts, just keep putting one foot in front of the other and just keep showing up. And I, I think that's been helpful to me.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, so any final thoughts? I mean, we want to summarize.
Oh, final thoughts. So, first of all, I want to just comment. Um,
Mhm.
Doing this experience with you has been absolutely delightful, totally delightful, and I thank you. You are an exquisite, wonderful representative of Arvind, and besides that, a wonderful being of light. It's just been a privilege to share this time with you. The second thing I feel like saying to everybody else who's watching this, looking at this, feeling involved with this, I get invited to a lot of things. I say yes to some, I say no to some. I felt really moved to say yes here because I felt like um, a number of people would be looking at this or involved in this who who are looking for that kind of grace. So back to the summary part. So you notice a lot of what I've been talking about is is just the innate exquisiteness and magnificence and divinity of life and of you and of me. And then second, I've been really talking a lot about just kind of going within and trusting this amazing self that you are in a way that just lets that self speak more openly, move you more fully, be more powerfully manifest in every facet of you. And so if I had is it an invitation or a request? I'm not sure, or maybe both for any of you or all of you, it would be to really look at some of the questions that we've raised today. What is the truth of me? What am I called to, and especially what am I called to in this moment? And then really, really trust that. To me, again, that's the ultimate of what being spiritual is. We can be psychological and go and live according to certain principles. We can be philosophical and live according to certain principles. We can be a human and live according to certain principles. But somehow, even spirituality moves us to the glass ceiling of those principles. And it's really about, at some point, and this may be the point, it's really about, wow, even letting go of the principles, if that feels like it's your truth, and wow, just go to living in the truth of the moment, which is, again, a step that takes a lot of courage, because if there's some guilt or shame or non-trust of self or whatever, we may have to face that, if you will. But when we do it, and when we stay with it, it opens up doorways, it opens up pathways, it opens up um, avenues to freedom. And I feel like total freedom. Call it awakening, call it enlightenment, self-realization, or call it happiness, whatever we want to call it, whatever label, depending on our focus, is possible. It's possible for each and every one of us. And it takes the kind of ingredients that we're talking about today. And I just want to leave each of you with my own love, my own blessing, my own gift of empowerment in whatever way is meant to be in this beautiful connection that we've just had. So thank you. So
Yes, thank you. Lovely. Yes, was tossing and turning last night, because I'm like, I'm going to speak to Bill Bauman. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm not even prepared. Oh my goodness. And at some point, I just had to let go and say, okay, I just leave it up to you to define, like you said, the surrender, so it can be the best interview for me and him, the
that's
best
it.
experience, and it has by far exceeded my expectations.
That's so sweet. Thank you. It's been a
So,
total joy.
thank you. So, if people would like to know more about you and your work, what is your website? How can they
Oh,
reach you?
yes, the website is, it's my name actually. It's www.billbauman.net, not .com, but .net. And Bill Bauman is Billbauman. And it's got all sorts of goodies about me on there.
And your books?
Oh, my books, yeah, and you can find, there's a whole section on books in there if people are interested in that too. They can find all my books and writings, and I've done, DVD presentations and all of that. So, um,
Great.
anything to your heart's content.
That's awesome. Oh, and also any seminars or talks coming up?
Oh my goodness, yes, I have it's interesting, at the end of May, I think it's Memorial Day weekend if I'm not mistaken, I have a retreat, a 3.5 day retreat I'm doing on the east coast of the United States, in Maryland, just a half hour's drive from the Baltimore Washington International Airport, and that will be there. But all that information is on the website, and I do a lot of other things too. That
Great.
people.
So www.billbauman.net.
Oh, you are good. Thank you. Perfect.
All right. Thank you. Namaste.
Okay, namaste to you and to everyone. Have a beautiful day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.